Ladies and gentlemen, ATDF everything in that shelf presentation. You're now rocking with TDF everything. Spoiled rotten.
Spoiler alert.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Spoiled Rotten with me, Daniel, and that Shelf alumni, previous film editor, Noah Taylor.
Hello, everybody.
Oh, I knocked my mic. All right, it's fine. We're just going to move right through that. This is happening because we had a standing date to watch and then comment on Shaft 2000. That's not to say that won't happen sometime in the future, but Shaft 2019 just came out.
It did.
And
Shaft 2019. Not to be confused with Shaft 1971
Yeah.
or Shaft 2000.
So these are going to be things that we have to talk about, aka why are there many movies named Shaft, and why does this one acknowledge the other, like at least Shaft 2000?
Sorry for knocking the mic there.
Oh, that's fine. As I said, we're just going to roll through these things.
So Shaft 5 is going to be the main concentration today, but it's hard to talk about Shaft 5 without talking about Shaft 1, 2, 3, 4.
Right.
Even though some of us have only seen Shaft maybe 1, Shaft
And I've
4.
only seen 3. Is that
Shaft-
what it was?
Oh yeah, Shaft Goes to Africa.
Yeah.
I have not. Yeah, so I've seen Shaft 1971. I just watched this weekend, and then there was Shaft's Big Score. I think came the year after that, and then Shaft Goes to Africa, and then there was a short-lived TV series or a series of TV movies with Shaft, and those were all very close together in the early between like 1971 and 1975. And then 25 years later came Shaft 2000, which I think a lot of people thought was a reboot, except Richard Roundtree shows up as the original
he is
Shaft.
Shaft.
Yeah.
So this comes to our first wrinkle, where he is playing Samuel Jackson's John Shaft's uncle in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
But skip forward 19 years, and it turns out he was just lying about that. He was actually Samuel Jackson, John Shaft's dad.
I think there's a lot of retconning that goes on in this franchise.
Yeah. Well, I guess we should just say, like, right away, did you like Shaft 2019?
Shaft 2019, I thought it wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. I didn't read any reviews going in, but I know that generally critics did not like it and audiences did. And I think that's because a lot of the humor comes from this generational gap they play off a lot between Shaft Senior and Shaft Junior, because obviously the idea of Shaft is a little bit dated now, this womanizer, sort of badass, and they play a lot off that. I expected going into this that the new Shaft was just going to be another iteration of that, but it's really more like a buddy cop comedy where it's like they're the odd couple. He's the new millennial, and it really brings out the differences in the generations.
They do. Yeah. They have like a couple of moments. Well, it's one of them's in the trailer. You can't hit her. She's a woman. That's misogynistic. Yeah. But then there's other stuff like
the whole
don't,
movie.
Don't use the H word, which I did find weird.
Oh, there's the whole. It's riddled with it, and I think that's what a lot of audiences are having a hard time like trying to like thinking if we can laugh at this. But I think it is sort of making fun of both generations a little bit, both the older and the younger. So I think it's a hard kind of humor to get right, and I think that's what a lot of not the audiences so much, the critics are kind of struggling with here. It's like, oh, like what's okay to laugh at, what's funny, and I was kind of a bit on both sides in the movie, like depending on the joke. Some worked, some didn't. Some felt really forced, but some parts I felt genuinely really funny.
I feel like I might like it a bit more than you, but I'm very well aware that it is probably not a good movie. It's just, I think I had such lowered expectations going in because I think both of us rewatched Shaft 2000 like this weekend.
The best Shaft movie.
Yeah, which I do want to talk about in just a second because there's a couple of things close to me as a Batman fan in that movie that are happening.
All right.
But this one, when I saw the trailer, I was like, but that, like, I'm sure there's funny parts in Shaft, but it's not a comedy. And this is, as you said, a flat out buddy cop comedy.
Yeah, it feels like another script that they again like retconned to be Shaft. It felt like a buddy cop action comedy.
This is not the. I'm going to keep calling him Samuel Jackson, John Shaft, from even Shaft 2000.
Well, to make it even more confusing, all three of their names are John Shaft.
Yes.
They all have the same
name. It worked when it was like, oh, that John Shaft is my uncle, because then you don't need to use Junior. You could just be like, oh, yeah, I'm named after my uncle.
Yeah.
But now that it's really his dad, we're missing a John Shaft Jr. There's only one John Shaft Jr. in the movie, which can't be right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that was an odd choice. So I always assumed that the reason that they made him his uncle in Shaft 2000 was two things. Was like they had already had this character built up, throughout 3 films and then several TV movies, and then they were like, oh, well, he never had a son in those, so maybe we'll make him the nephew. Sense. And also the fact that there's only 6 years difference in between Samuel L. Jackson and Richard Roundtree.
That's crazy. I even forgot that. Even when he was like, how can you be your age and still look like older than my gray ass?
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah.
But I think that was my initial problem was I don't want to see him be like a farce. I didn't want it to be a farce, but I feel like more times than not the jokes felt like, again, they didn't feel like they belonged in a Shaft movie, but at least they worked in the moment. Like if you're just looking at it as something that they kind of just
was there ever a point
mapped Shaft onto?
Right. I mean, I felt like Samuel L. Jackson more so than in 2000. I felt like they based his character more on Samuel L. Jackson than Shaft.
I mean, I guess a positive out of this movie is if you watched Shaft 2000 and then this one, you can see what a good actor he is because he is certainly doing different things.
Yeah.
It is a completely different character.
And I much preferred the 2001.
Oh, yeah.
And one thing that was really disappointing, because, Shaft, he's obviously rough around the edges, and this one shows he's a little out of step with the times, but it's kind of disappointing that he's such an asshole and such a shitty dad. But they do kind of like address it, I guess, in that the mother kind of asked him to stay away.
The idea that, because I thought the movie was going at like, no, he is a good person, but the mom made the decision. But
he's an
but the
asshole
son was like, no, like you made a choice. My mom said either stop being Shaft or be with your son, and he decided.
Yeah, and again, that's why I kind of feel like he's being. I mean, again, I don't really know what Samuel L. Jackson's family history is. I just know that he can be a bit of a dick and unapologetically so.
Yeah,
and so that's why I feel like this is almost more of him being Sam Jackson than him being Shaft.
Oh yeah, this. To be fair, though, I like asshole Samuel Jackson. So it was fun to hear him talk like this. So I guess that won me over ultimately. I don't think it's a great movie. Yeah. I think it worked in the moment. I probably will never watch this again.
I will say though that I thought the opening 10 minutes or so were really strong. They did a lot. So they start off in 1989. I don't know if they did any digital de-aging with Sam Jackson or not.
I assume they did.
I think they did a little bit, but they don't need to do much, as we already saw in Captain Marvel. They don't need to do that
you
much.
don't have to do much to because I think other than him kind of packing on a couple of pounds, which isn't even really that noticeable.
Well, they wear a lot of black, so that helps.
Yeah, and I agree with you. That the beginning, I think, did enough work for me to be like, oh, this can't be all bad.
And then the opening credits had some really cool like split screen stuff mixed with like sort of the John Shaft Jr. growing up and then what Shaft was up to, and then they incorporate some footage from the 2000 film. One of my favorite gags in the whole movie was the kid getting Christmas presents, and it was like from Shaft.
Yeah,
that was hilarious.
I would say that was when I was like, oh, maybe I will like this humor, because that was a good running gag throughout the credits. Is like he first gives him the Super Bowl ring from
Lawrence Taylor. Is that his name?
Who is in the first movie.
Yeah, they referenced later on.
I'm assuming then he was playing himself in that movie?
I guess so, yeah.
I didn't think he was, though.
Yeah, they don't... Yeah.
I just was rewatching. I didn't think he was playing... Doesn't matter. Yeah. Anyway, that was a nice callback. And then it leads up to him giving him, like, condoms and porno and stuff like that.
In the wrong order, by the way. He gave him the condoms first, then the porno.
Yeah, the porno was like the last gift.
Yeah, I'm going to college. I think that was kind of the wrong order. Maybe that was part of the joke.
Yeah, he's out of step. Yeah. I think I did appreciate any reference to 2000 movie.
Right.
Again, any reference to like the 70s stuff would have gone over my head because I didn't really.
I just watched the 70s movie for that reason, but and if there were any references, I missed it. But I got to say, the 70s movie did not hold my attention very well. So,
Right. And that's why I haven't watched any of them. To be honest, I just don't think.
I'll tell you though, he's not nearly as much of an asshole in the original one. He's a very cool guy.
To my parents, like he's like the hero. He's the guy. Like you're not supposed to be like, oh, that's you're supposed to be like, no, I want to be that guy.
Yeah, he's cool. Like he's not like I think the reason that though that movie like connected so much back then was mostly like the soundtrack, which we should get into. Mm-hmm. And Richard Roundtree is just really cool.
He's a likable guy. Yeah. He doesn't get a lot to do in this. Well, actually, I mean, I'm sure he feels like he got a lot to do considering his age is probably.
Well,
he's only 6
a
years
lot
older
to do
than
considering he's only in the last like 10 or 15 minutes as well.
Yeah, but they like then it is him in the last 10 and 15 minutes. I honestly thought, but before we were recording, during the movie, I was like, wait, are they just going to keep him to a post-credit scene? I'm going to be so pissed. But he does show up. But the trailers really make it seem like it's the three of them all movie.
Yeah, the trailer kind of made me think that it was going to be like, three generations of badasses throughout most of the movie. And it's not that at all. Like I said, it's like this like buddy cop comedy, mismatched. All of the humor is based on the fact that basically John Shaft Jr. is a nerd. He's a data analyst at the FBI. At the beginning, and then he dresses like very nerdy, and he's Shaft. His dad's always making fun of him. I guess he goes shopping at some point though, because by the end he's dressing like gradually cooler. And,
he does get better
amongst all this action, or maybe he just had this backups in his closet. But
to be fair though, I think I would have probably liked to wear whatever he was wearing when he initially goes to find Shaft. I get
the Gap outfit. With the tie?
I think that's still a nerdy look, but I was like, hey, I would wear that.
Well, it's cool. It's our generation. It's like like we're the millennials that Sam Jackson's making fun of, and that's why I think a lot of people are struggling with enjoying this movie because so much of the humor is like, oh, he's out of step, and there's even there's the joke really early on with the police captain where he's like, oh, and my daughter wants to be called Frank. And it's like, that's, I guess, played for laughs, but I think it's also, and I can see why some people would think it was problematic, but that's realistic as well. Whereas if that captain had a daughter who was identifying as Frank, he would probably mention it and not be happy about it.
I agree. I feel like, I feel like sometimes people misinterpret like a moment like that as the director like being like, this is how or the writer
exactly
being like, this is how I feel. This is.
Right,
but like it is just like a real representation of what's going on,
and I think it is like a little bit of both too, right? Where the director might relate with that character, but they're also aware of it, the fact that it is like they are out of step, but like they're still poking fun at it, so it's really hard to tell like where the line is.
This reminds me, which makes the Lawrence Fishburne joke even funnier. I know it's based on when Samuel Jackson got
he's always calling people out.
Yeah, but Kenya Barris wrote this movie. I know he's on a list of 3 people who write it, but I did feel his voice throughout the movie. He does Blackish, which really peddles in that type of humor of like what it's like to be an older black person versus a younger black person, and a lot of the same conversations will happen. And usually on that show, there is like the Lawrence Fishburne is the grandfather in that show.
Okay. How old is the writer? How old is he? Do you know?
Like 40s.
Okay.
So he probably is like the Anthony Anderson character.
Right.
Well, I know for a fact that like a lot of the storylines are based on his real life. Like at one point they split up, which was what he was going through at one point. But especially the dynamic of the father who's embarrassed by his son who seems too effeminate or whatever.
Right.
That all that stuff feels like Kenya Barris stuff where he's kind of showing you both sides, and I never know what he actually thinks because I feel like he does a good job of less so in this movie, but in Blackish when he's got time to spread it out.
Right. And
he does a good job of showing all sides of it. So even though it seems like one character, for instance, Lawrence Fishburne might be his voice because Lawrence Fishburne is articulating exactly how he feels about millennials. The millennials still get to have a moment to come back, and so it's better balanced, but it does feel like that's kind of his thing.
Right.
So I thought they could have gone stronger with that. But again, I don't know what the movie really wanted to get accomplished, because
I think, well, I mean, I think it was trying to accomplish a few things. I think it succeeded somewhat. It definitely, I liked that it did feel sort of like an old school action movie, especially like the villain death at the end felt like something right out of Die Hard or Lethal Weapon.
And they even that's the first time I've seen, because they put the shot in the trailer, but I guess without context it doesn't matter. But when he goes out the window, he even hits the building before he hits the car at the bottom, and I was like, I've never seen that. That's nice. That was
nice.
But also they make me be like, oh, I guess this really is a comedy, or an action comedy.
Yeah. And then there's not that many of them these days, so it's, on that level, it's kind of a nice, nice sort of change of pace at least.
And that ties into what I was saying. I kind of do like Ride Along, the first Ride Along, which also directed by Tim Story. That, I guess you can say he's good at that, although he did the second one, so that kind of got away from him.
And the upcoming third one.
Oh boy, I can't believe that's happening. All right, the music. Do we want to talk about?
Yeah, definitely.
Because especially in comparison to the 2000 one, I want to talk. The 70s one, everyone knows. You've been playing.
It's the original soundtrack. In obviously the 70s one is the original soundtrack, and then in the 2001 it uses heavily, well, at least music inspired by the 2001 all throughout. This one uses it at the beginning and at the end, but it kind of drops it throughout all the middle. And
I guess to me that was me being like, I guess they really are focusing on Shaft Jr.
Yeah,
and it really is a Shaft Jr. movie.
Right.
It's his friend that is the inciting incident. You're trying to. I thought they were going to try and make it be like the Samuel Jackson John Shaft was trying to get with somebody, but he kind of just is throwing it everywhere he can, and it's the son who's on the journey with
the one love interest. You mean?
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I don't know if I've heard this term before, but I kind of like it. I mean, again, I wouldn't use it because I am not John Shaft, but he kept saying, break me off a piece.
Yeah.
Or break me off. No, not even break me off a piece, just break me off.
Yeah.
Which is I don't know if that's a thing, but I get it.
Yeah. I feel like when I watch shows like Martin, I would hear that a lot.
Yeah.
And then
what about going back to the Shaft 2000, watching the other day, and I was never quite sure about the the line where he's paying off the bartender who went on to be in The Wire, and he's like, do you want to be held or do you want the LD?
Right.
What is the LD?
I've got to imagine it's long dick.
That's the only thing I can come up with as well.
But yeah, because I feel like sometimes low down, but that's not it.
Yeah.
Down low, low down.
Yeah, but long dick doesn't sound very cool though.
No, it doesn't.
It sounds like a long skinny dick.
I remember thinking oh, that's not cool.
No.
I don't like that one.
No. And it's you have to Google it, and then even still, it's not even on Urban Dictionary.
It's not a thing. I don't think it's a thing. All I can assume is he didn't want to say long dick without laughing.
Yeah.
Or she was laughing when he said, or do you want the long dick?
I don't know. I think that we still haven't gotten to the bottom of this LD. I think it was meant to be something else that nobody got. I think it's a reference that nobody gets.
All right. I'll give you that. I'm only making an assumption. I don't know for sure.
I looked it up on YouTube. There was a clip on YouTube. I was reading the comments, and I think no one got it. I think no one got to the bottom. I think one or two people said long dick, but they weren't sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not. Yeah. He didn't put it together that way. But I will say this: I liked when he said, well, he says it to his son, but the concept of it's my duty to please that booty.
Yeah.
I liked it better in this movie than the 2001.
Yeah,
because he seems like he says it, but it doesn't feel like a thing.
Yeah,
when he says it in the 2000.
I guess that's the other big difference with this new Shaft is he's just got a single love interest, which is very out of character for his father and apparently his grandfather. Which, again, I don't know why they felt the need to be
change it to.
Yeah, I guess so. It's just 3 generations of Shaft, but even if it was his uncle or great uncle, that's still 3 generations of Shafts.
And because I was so confused when the trailer first came out. I'm like, he's calling Shaft's uncle grandpa, basically. But that's not his grandpa if he's the son of. Anyway, they figured it out. I mean, they sorted it out.
You know what? The other thing though that bugged me about that was, I like so remember when the introduction of when he first meets Shaft is great because when the hooker comes or so the stripper comes and she's got the glitter all over him, and then we see Sam Jackson the first time we see him, he's got glitter all over his mouth, and then he's like, oh, this is my son. And then the stripper is like, "Oh, I thought you always pull out in time."
Yeah,
and that was one thing I kind of liked about thinking about. Oh, I like that it was his uncle because like I think his uncle, like that guy always did pull out in time. Like,
yeah,
like that guy did.
Like this,
never had
it's like degrading as the generations go on.
Yeah. So I like that idea, but then they ruined it by being like, "Oh no, he just pretended to be your uncle for years." They kind of
weird wrinkle to put in there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the thing. So the music in this one is way more contemporary.
Yeah.
Well, not. I mean, some of the needle drops I legitimately liked because they were from like 80s, 90s.
Yeah.
And then I kind of missed that they didn't use the Shaft, or at least the Shaft inspired music in this one, because I think in 2000 it helps you like go with it better because you're like, well, yeah, this is different because that is supposed to be present day, but they're still using like the 70s music and it's got a lot more fanfare, so it feels a bit heightened, whereas this makes it seem too real, and then I don't think it matches up.
It kind of just feels like another like contemporary like action movie. Yeah, I agree. I rewatching 2000 again recently. That's one of the things that made that movie kind of unique and really cool was the music throughout the whole thing. It was very much like inspired by that 70s Isaac Hayes score, and it really propels like the plot and everything, and from like throughout the whole movie. Whereas this one, they use it at the beginning, it kind of falls out, and then they've got like contemporary music, needle drops. There's one scene that's like on its own really cool where they use "Be My Baby," where it's by the Ronettes, and it's the first time we see John Shaft Jr. being like doing
his gun,
doing like cool shit.
Oh, sorry, not even his gun. It's his love interest's gun.
Yeah. And it's like on its own, that scene is really cool, but it feels like something that would be, again, like out of place or in a different movie because they weren't doing that anywhere else in the movie.
No, like it was pretty like straight up hip. And that's kind of what I liked in 2000. I know we keep coming back to that, but like anytime you heard a song like, and growing up, I remember I think I had the Shaft, like the 2000 Shaft soundtrack, but with all the contemporary music on it, so it had artists like T.I.
inspired by it.
Yeah, they inspired by it. Yeah. But like anytime you heard that song, it was like someone in the movie. It was diegetic, like someone was playing, and it was really like turned down. Like it wasn't the focus, and I thought that worked well. Yeah, but they didn't do that here, which is fine. Again, a different movie. Also, what I wanted to say was I really appreciated in 2000 when I was rewatching. I always knew Christian Bale was in it. I think that was the first time I was aware of Christian Bale and Jeffrey Wright.
Yeah. Jeffrey Wright for sure for me. And then I think I was kind of just getting into Bale, but those guys really make that movie.
But also, for me, the original Commissioner Gordon, Pat Hingle, is the judge.
Yeah.
That gets the
the shield thrown right. Yeah.
What a great time to be a Batman fan. Like, I was just really happy to see that again.
Having going back and recently rewatched some of the Burton Batman movies, Hingle was a terrible Commissioner Gordon. Like that's a terrible.
That's probably why I just never respected Commissioner Gordon. Other than like the animated series, they made him good, but like I didn't like him in the Adam West Batman. I certainly didn't like him in the other, like the Burton.
Yeah, and if you watch Batman Returns, Batman doesn't even like him.
No,
remember the scene where he's just like cold shouldering him after like saving the town. He's like, "Oh, you saved us again, Batman," and Batman's like not even acknowledging him
or something. Even though, and then
again,
and then Gary Oldman saved Gordon for me. I was like, "Oh, what a great character!"
Yeah. Gordon was really good in the Nolan ones, but Bale was apparently hesitant to take that role because he was just coming off American Psycho.
Oh, really?
And didn't want to play like another villain. But I'm glad he did because again, I think if you haven't figured it out yet, we both much prefer the 2000 Shaft, and that's kind of what instigated us all. We kind of both, I think, wish we were talking a little more about that one. I don't know.
I do because I want to get into like the Christian Bale of it all.
Yeah, the Baleness.
Because that's what this movie is missing is. Like I remember when they first showed Manny, I was just like, this, like I get it, like this is kind of like what Jeffrey Wright was doing, but he's no Peoples.
He's barely in it, and then then the main villain you only see again in like the last 5 minutes. The
I
main
will
guy
say
in
he
film.
looked cool, but then once he started talking, I was like,
No,
done.
he's
I'm
a
not
French
into it.
actor. Yeah, he's been in a lot of Jim Jarmusch movies, which is funny because I just
yeah, you're
rewatched
saying
all
you-
of those. So yeah, he's the lead in Limits in Control. His name is Isaac something or Isaac because he's French.
Right. I do recognize him, but
Yeah.
it was more like, oh, he's cool.
Yeah, he's got a good face. He's got like an interesting face. But yeah, speaks very little English, I think. And
That's fair.
yeah.
All right, I take it back then. It didn't ruin it when he talked. It's just
But yeah, no. The cool thing about, again, going back to the 2001, is that the very first scene in the movie, they set up this crime scene. It's almost like got like a Law and Order beginning where they hit this crime scene. He's trying to figure out what's going on. I guess unlike Law and Order, you kind of know like right away who's most likely the guilty party.
Yeah.
But it sets up this like really good villain right away. This guy you hate right away. He like skips bail.
yeah. There was no one to hate in this because that was the movie. It was like you think you've got him at one point, and then there's like, well, yeah, you can just post bail. It's
He's the
fine.
rich guy, Walter Wade Jr. or whatever. The cool thing I thought, again, the surprising thing about Bale in that movie, his character, was that even though he's this like rich kid, stuck-up rich kid, racist, I like the parts where you see that he can really take care of himself.
In
Like
the
he's
jail
always
scene?
yeah, in the jail, and then when he gets mugged, he puts on the gloves. He's always ready for a fight, which is like it's almost like something I feel like Christian Bale would bring to it. He's like, okay, well, if I'm gonna play like I'll play a villain, I'll play this like terrible person, but like I'm not gonna play him like a pussy.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
I've got to say, now that I know who Isaac, I don't even want to. I think it's De Bancole. I don't know, but he's in Black Panthers, the guy with the disc in his mouth.
Oh right, yeah, that's right. He's got the
What
huge thing
that
in
is
his lip.
that is
Yeah.
good because I guess any weird English he says just sounds fine with that in your mouth.
Yeah, right.
Like that's perfectly good for this guy. I'm glad
Yeah.
that he's in more American movies for me to watch.
It's funny. One point I remember Jim Jarmusch making about him was that he's got such an interesting face that no matter like what kind of haircut he has or what kind of hat, always changes his look.
Yeah, because he looks, I mean, different enough in
Yeah.
Black Panther. He's also in one of the James Bond movies.
Oh yeah.
He's pretty high up on the IMDb list of names, considering he has less screen time than Richard Roundtree.
Yeah, even less than Richard Roundtree, which is not saying much. And again, back to the 2001. One of the things that makes that movie really work is that you don't have not only that one good villain that's set up, then he joins forces with Jeffrey Wright as Peoples, who's like one of the most memorable. Like,
Yeah, like I remember being like, this guy is crazy. And then like
Yeah.
you watch him in Westworld and you're like, what a great actor.
Yeah.
Or like Boardwalk Empire, just like
Yeah.
he's so composed in those things.
yeah. I showed my wife it last night, and she's watched Westworld with me and a few other shows. And I think I'd already told her that he was in it, but she forgot. And she's like, "Who is that guy? He's a good actor."
Yeah, he really stands. I mean, in a movie with some great actors, and it's not even like, oh wow, he really blows everyone out of the water. It's just he really stood out to me when I first watched it, and then on the second time, I'm like, yeah, still works.
Yeah, and again, what stood out to me watching that last night was it doesn't feel like. I mean, I say a Shaft movie, but I don't think anybody really knows what a Shaft movie is. It's not like James Bond, where there's been 25 of them and they're all kind of similar. All these Shaft movies, except for I haven't seen 2 and 3 of the Roundtree ones, but the 71, 2000, and 2019 are vastly different. They've got very different tones, very different styles.
I was gonna say maybe that's the thing. Like you kind of just switch up the tone or even genre per movie.
Yeah. And one thing that this one kind of made apparent to me was, again, with all of the generational jokes, is that I think a lot more has changed in the last 20 years than in the 30 years between the other two. And I think, that's kind of brought to light in this.
I think a moment I was not ashamed, but maybe I shouldn't have laughed as hard as I did was the joke about brothers watching brothers.
I think you did a spit take on that. I think you were taking I think you had a bit of a spit take on that, and I missed it.
I thought that was really funny, and I shouldn't think that's funny. I just thought it was funny that they the part-time villain in this one, Manny, and Shaft could both bond over the fact that they thought that was a gay sounding
That sounded
name.
gay, yeah. So this is in the movie. It's a organization that's helping people who have come back from the war in the military, who have PTSD and have become addicts, and they have an organization called Brothers Watching Brothers, and Shaft thinks this sounds very gay. And then they even have a joke too with the receptionist.
Oh yeah, the
for it being
receptionist is
like
flamboyantly gay.
most likely gay. Yeah.
I
And
that,
again,
but
I
that,
can
I
see
think
why
I laughed at
I
that
can
too,
see
actually.
why it rubbed people the wrong way, though, for sure. Yeah.
I also thought it was weird because I'm like, well, Kareem's. I thought at first it was supposed to be like a black thing, and I was like,
Again,
Kareem's not black.
Yeah.
And then, but
Yeah, because you think that's in a Shaft movie, you think that would be the joke, like, oh, brothers watching brothers, like, oh, your friend didn't look black or something like that.
yeah, like, but they went the other way with it.
Yeah.
At least when Method Man comes in, because Method Man's in this movie, I guess he replaced Busta Rhymes.
Busta, yeah.
Which was unfortunate. But Busta Rhymes does not have the dreads anymore, so.
Well, he's not playing the same character, though, is he?
No, he's not. I'm
No.
just saying, like, I guess they needed their one rapper,
Yeah. Well,
co-conspirator.
again, back to the 2000 one, that's the thing I liked is that there's multiple sort of Busta Rhymes types guys that, like,
Yeah.
like LT, and then the guy who's the driver. Like Shaft just has all these guys that just, like, owe him favors.
Oh, yeah,
He,
there's
like,
the
calls
guy who,
on-
like, when he's, like, he wants to be a cop,
Yeah,
and he's
yeah.
like, wait, who made your permanent record
Yeah.
disappear or whatever. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so he's just got all these guys that, like, owe him favors around town, and I like that aspect of the 2001 again. And I guess, yeah, Method Man is sort of that role in this one.
But he's, like, way more established than
Yeah.
those other guys. Those guys
Like,
needed
low
Shaft.
level.
This guy
Yeah.
just does Shaft favors. He, at one point, he even says, bring me back a drink,
Yeah.
as if he has more power over Shaft.
Yeah.
Than like that. But at least, I was going to say, at least he didn't make the gay joke. He just said, that's a terrible fucking name. And
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, a lot of jokes per scene. Like they're going for like a laugh a minute almost. So obviously not all of them land. And you know what? I think dads would probably like this, but I think a lot of guys that are like Sam Jackson's age would like that. So I guess maybe people who grew up with the original, maybe that's sort of the target demo. I think they might appreciate the
Like,
humor.
they want to just laugh. The
Yeah.
guys behind us loved it.
It's true.
At one point,
Yeah.
just straight up said, this is a good movie.
Did they? I didn't hear
Yeah,
that.
I
What's
was
their
like-
review?
Yeah, and it was like, I don't even know that
Yeah.
they'd seen enough of the movie to know that was true. I think they
Yeah.
just laughed twice in a row, and they were like, this is a good movie.
Yeah. The sad thing is that like this is it's very much a Hollywood movie. You can tell it's big budget, lots of action, but at the same time, I felt myself thinking like, oh, this could have been straight to Netflix. And it's made by
Probably
it's made
wouldn't
by
have watched
Netflix.
if it went to Netflix.
You
though.
probably wouldn't have.
Nah, I don't think I would. I think anytime, unless it's like, even then it's hard to tell. Like when
Not even based on your love of the 2001, you wouldn't have watched this. I got really excited last week when I thought my friend was like, "Shaft is on Netflix," and I thought,
I was
that-
so happy when that
I
happened.
thought that meant that this went straight to Netflix. 'Cause I
Oh.
knew it was a Netflix movie, and I was like, "That's awesome," because we were going to record this podcast, and I can watch it whenever.
No, I don't know. I have a thing about, unless it's like one of their like romantic. I guess this is a comedy, so maybe I would have watched it.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like their romantic comedies work out better, or when it's like an original Netflix movie. But
Yeah.
anytime I hear like, oh, like
They're
they
bringing
couldn't get
back
the funding,
something.
and they just, I guess they're like the. Again, it's not a comedy, but like the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon sequel, I was just like, ugh.
Oh, was that announced? I didn't hear about that.
No, it. I mean, it
It's
was
there?
Yeah, it's on there. It's
What's
not good.
What's it called?
It's like Sword of Destiny.
Oh,
It's not. I think we actually reviewed it on Spoiled Rotten at one point.
oh, really?
Yeah, it's the.
I don't know.
I
Does it have any of the original people in it?
maybe
Hmm.
Michelle Yeoh.
Well, I've been meaning to rewatch Crouching Tiger anyway, so I'll just do that instead.
Yeah, don't watch the sequel.
Yeah.
It. Oh yeah, I know what people didn't like. It had one of the guys from Glee in it. I think that really took people out of it. That wasn't the movie's problem. The movie's just not great,
Right.
and it is.
Well, but Netflix
in
did make
English.
this movie. You know that, right? Netflix was one of the studios behind the new Shaft.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if I didn't notice them in the credits. I might be mistaken. Now they say that. Maybe I just got confused when I saw they were adding Shaft 2000. But
Maybe.
I'm pretty sure Netflix was involved in this somehow. But if nothing else, I hope. And again, this because Shaft 2000 was just added to Netflix, so I think that would track with this.
That timing
with them
really
being
worked
out.
out for me
And-
because I came home and I was like, I don't want to actually have to like pay for this.
Yeah.
I'm not going to download it.
You should
And
you
so
should
I
own
just-
that. That's a movie you should own.
I should own it, but I didn't at the time. So I went to Amazon Prime first.
Yeah.
Wasn't there, and I was like, whatever. Let me check Netflix. It
Yeah.
was there. I was like,
It was
perfect.
like just recently added.
yeah.
And yeah, I hope if nothing else, the legacy of Shaft 2019 should serve to like bring more people to Shaft 2000. Because I've always said it's underrated. I think it's really underrated. I've always like it's one of the first DVDs I had, and I've always telling people like to go out and check out Shaft 2000 if you haven't, because it's solid, man.
I should have set this up top, but we should pay our respects to John Singleton.
John Singleton, of course. Yeah,
Great filmmaker, and that's just an example of it.
Yeah.
And the talent that he had, because even Toni Collette's in that movie.
Yeah.
A lot more than I thought she was. My memory of the movie was just Christian Bale, Jeffrey Wright, and Samuel Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of was like, I remember her being like the witness or whatever, but
Yeah.
a lot of the movie is him trying to get in touch with her and her avoiding him.
And then it all ends up being for nothing at the very end once he does bring her back. Again, spoiler for Shaft 2000 if you haven't watched it.
Yeah.
At the very end, it all ends up being for nothing.
Chief from Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego shoots the Christian Bale anyway.
Oh, that's the mother? That's what she's
Yeah.
from? Okay.
Yeah. I forgot that happened.
Yeah.
And was just like, I guess that shows how well the movie worked. Was that like when Shaft was like, "We got him this time," I'm like, no, you don't. He's just gonna get out again.
Yeah.
And I completely forgot that she shoots him dead.
It's
and
so
people
sad.
chant, "Let her go!
Let her go."
Let her go!"
They should have been like, yeah, okay, and then let her go.
Yeah.
It's sad for me because I'm like, yeah, they went through all this effort to get this witness. They got her. She's an eyewitness. She's going to lock him up. But then, no, the mother just kills him, and now she's going to get locked up.
Yeah. Although, I'm sure no one would rather be in jail. But I'm sure she felt like it's worth it that I got to kill this guy.
Maybe she's got like a suicide plan. Maybe she's got some cyanide. That they
Yeah,
cut out.
maybe. Because, like it was one of those. This movie we're 2019 movie. We're mostly just thinking about like, oh, what jokes were funny. Whereas you really, I at least feel like you go on like an emotional journey with like, because Christian Bale is so easy to hate in that movie,
I know.
It was like they really set up that was like a racially motivated crime. Like he just did not like that Mekhi Phifer would walk into that place.
Yeah, and I actually got like a little emotional in the scene, even though I knew what I've seen it many times, but like when he's going into the convulsions and dies, like I felt like emotional, like I never had before, because I'm just like, ugh, like that shit happens.
Yeah, no, I had the same reaction. I was like, no, and then I mean, some didn't undercut it, but I was just like, I stopped feeling sad and getting angry when he's like, "Hey, homeboy's got rhythm." I was like, "You motherfucker!" That movie.
It sets up such a good like it sets it all up right at the front loads it, and then it takes like some unexpected turns with again Jeffrey Wright's character Peoples, and like that's just like again, like we can't urge this enough. Go if you haven't yet, watch Shaft 2000. It's on Netflix. But we knew we would digress. But should we...
One last thing, I think maybe I'll say some more stuff about it. But I didn't remember that Elizabeth Banks is in that movie.
she doesn't have any lines. She's
No,
like a
no
background
lines,
player.
but
I didn't know that.
I
at
think
all.
she has a name if you look her up on IMDb.
Yeah, but now I was watching too. I was like, is that Elizabeth Banks? Because she's got no lines in that.
It's got to be one of her earlier things, though, right?
Oh yeah, it's before Wet Hot American Summer, which was like one of her first things. What did you think of the lead in the new one?
He got better as the movie went, or he just wore me down. I don't know, because his first couple lines, I was like, "Fuck this guy! I do not want to watch a whole movie."
I know his last name's Usher, but I forget his first name, or he's got initials. But I remember like
Jay Usher. I
remember like leading up to the film, like thinking, like, who is this guy? Why is he leading this movie? Again, I was going in thinking that they were going to make him like another typical badass Shaft. But the fact that he's this like data and computer analyst nerd, mostly played for comedy, he was pretty good. I thought, like in that role.
As I said, it got better. I felt like I don't know what order they filmed it in, but I feel like his earlier scene was really weird. Like he was saying lines like he wasn't sure.
Yeah.
But then
he's like, "What am I doing here?"
Yeah. He also played Will Smith's son in Independence Day, the sequel.
Okay. Then I noticed that was his biggest credit, was that sequel. I never saw it. I didn't realize that he's supposed to be his son in it.
Yeah, it's not. It's like, don't watch it. It's not good.
Is Will Smith's character supposed to be dead? Or
Yeah,
maybe
no, he's
or he
100%
found out
dead.
he's actually his uncle.
No, he 100% dies in the movie for no good reason.
Will Smith does?
Yeah, like they're like he was testing a jet and he died.
Oh.
Like it just seems like you could even. I don't even know how else you'd kill him off, but like that's a weird way to kill him off because the whole first movie is how good he is
Yeah.
at flying.
Right? It's like saying, Han Solo crashed the Millennium Falcon because he didn't see the asteroid coming. Or
Yeah, it
didn't
was,
he disregarded the odds.
and I'm pretty sure they kill off Vivica Fox like right away too in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
But at least she got to be back.
Yeah, were there any other cameos in this movie? I would have liked to have seen actually a few more cameos, to be honest.
Your Netflix theory might hold true because I think her name is, I don't know the actress's name. I will look it up. But Tasty from Orange is the New Black is the Uber driver.
Oh, I assumed she was a comedian. Like she was pretty funny in her little one scene.
Yeah, I liked her a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's from Orange is the New Black.
Mm.
Doesn't mean she's not a comedian. I just only have seen her in that and a couple of commercials. I was wrong. It's not Tasty.
Oh, it's not?
Shit, I feel bad now. Oh boy, this is awkward. I'll find it. Maybe we can keep talking. Or
All right, so yeah, I think this movie will probably be more discovered on demand. It's already, I think, kind of a bit of a box office. I don't know if a flop is too heavy a word, but it's definitely in that line of disappointments this summer so far.
Yep.
Franchise, especially as far as franchises go, because apparently that's the only thing that people expect to make any money.
Is franchises?
Yeah, franchises. And let's not confuse people too much. Give it the same name, but that also makes it kind of confusing in its own way. What do you think this movie should have been called?
Well, I mean, to your point, they should have made it seem like it was part of a franchise by at least putting Shaft 2 on it or something.
Shaft 5. Or maybe have a 5 instead of the S.
Yeah. Now you're thinking. Now that would have
Or
been
Shafts. Shafts.
with the 5.
With an S. Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go. That actually kind of works.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's Cindy. If anyone's listening to this who knows Orange is the New Black, it's Cindy.
So you're right.
That's
It was.
who
Oh, okay. So it was the same actress.
She looks different there,
but you got the
that's
character name wrong.
I got the character name way wrong.
Okay. Yeah, actually, I think that kind of works. It's kind of like Aliens, or Predators, Shafts, but have the S be a 5.
It works. I'm now seeing how it works on multiple levels. And like at
Right?
first, I was just like, "Yeah, this is what just happened." But like, no, like they really want to push that there's multiple shafts in this.
Yeah, there's multiple shafts, guys, as advertised. There's mostly just 2 shafts, but then at the end, there's like at the tip, there's like a little more shaft.
Yeah, exactly. Now, we should have done the marketing. Is I
Right?
guess what's
A
happening.
little more shaft.
You know who I liked? The guy that was trying to date Regina Hall. That guy.
Oh yeah,
He made no sense as a human being, but
Yeah.
he was very funny to me.
Yeah. Then he gets the part in the trailer too where he's like, "Oh, I hear he shafts a bad mother." Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, that was great. Like, I don't know who that actor is, but he did a great job.
Yeah, he was good. And and again, sort of a running joke was that Sam Jackson Shaft is trying to fuck Shaft Jr.'s mom again, and so yeah, this is a guy who's on a date with
he
Shaft's
really
mom, and yeah, the intuition is, or the insinuation is that she does break him off again. I'm sure after the credits.
Yes, I would imagine that's what happened.
Yeah.
Because he has the one moment where she was like, "Obviously not. You've ruined the moment." And then
Yeah.
he's like, "Yeah, she's thinking about it."
She wants it.
And then, which again, problematic. But like, but it's Shaft, I guess.
Yeah, well, yeah, again, I can see why a lot of people had issues, but it's like, again, maybe they're not the target audience. Maybe the target
Yeah.
audience is more, original fans.
When the lights came on, I did see a bunch of smiles on older people that were in the back.
Yeah.
So I think it works. I think they knew who their audience was. Maybe they just overestimated how much that audience was going to come out.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, we'll see how it fares in the future. But again, I hope that this movie's legacy is to help people rediscover the 2000 Shaft because underrated.
Yeah, more people should be talking about that movie.
And again, it's back on Netflix now, so I think that'll help people rediscover it. This one, I think, will be easily forgotten in the next 5-10 minutes.
Rightfully so. I mean, I'm not trying to bash it. I'm just saying, like, I feel like people forgot Shaft 2000.
Too
They
fast.
shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Whereas when this one
It's like-
is inevitably forgotten, who knows how long that'll take.
Yeah.
It'll be like, that's fine.
Yeah.
No one's. I don't know if this is, other than Jesse T. Usher, I don't know if this is anyone's proudest moment.
Right. So is it better than the Independence Day sequel, though?
Yes, that movie sucks.
All right. So it's got that going for it. We can give it that.
I don't know why I was being so negative about it. I don't like it, but I'm sure someone liked it.
Independence Day?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was unnecessary. Not that this is necessary, but at least
This was
with
very necessary. I think this is the movie we all need right now.
I mean, in this case, like, if you just want to hang out with your friend Shaft, then sure.
Yeah.
Although he does get sidelined for, like, not a huge chunk, but, like, an alarming amount at the beginning when they want to really build up Shaft Jr.
Yeah. Again, like these movies are very inconsistent in their structure, in their tone, whereas like, yeah, so this one takes a long time to kind of set up this new character and the relationships with his friends who like sort of factor into the plot. Whereas like, yeah, so for example, the 1971 movie, I don't think there's a single scene that Shaft, the title Richard Roundtree, the only Shaft at the time, the original, is not in.
No Shafts.
Yeah, I think I think he's every single scene he's in, and the cool thing again watching like the 2001 again, I realized is that there's all these scenes that are just the villains, like all these scenes between Jeffrey Wright and Bale, where you kind of see what they're up to, and Shaft kind of is not around for a little bit, and those scenes like really work really well.
Yeah.
And in this one, there's even more characters, and yeah, it felt like it took a little bit of a long time to introduce Sam Jackson's character, and way too long, especially based on the marketing, to introduce Richard Roundtree, because he thought it was just going to be like a movie about the three generations getting together, but it's not till the very, very end that Roundtree comes into the picture. So, yeah, it's they're all like very vastly different, I would say.
Which isn't a bad thing, not inherently.
No.
It's just this one. I think we said it earlier. It felt like a different script that they mapped Shaft onto. Like they forced the issue of it being a Shaft movie.
Right. And again, yeah, and I think that's true of like some of the Lethal Weapon scripts, some of the Die Hard scripts. They have like these like action comedy scripts kicking around Hollywood, and they're like, oh, we can like turn this into something to serve this franchise, and then it'll be easier to sell. And I think there was even from the first Shaft, I think I read in the IMDb trivia that Mario Van Peebles claimed that it was written for a white character, and then after the success of Sweet Back that kind of kicked off blaxploitation films, he's like, oh, then they decided to make him black. But then that was disproved because by two easy ways to disprove it. One, it's based on a novel, and two, I think they started filming before that film was released. But yeah, so it's always kind of been like
it would be hard for me to believe that Shaft was
ever.
I mean, maybe some exec was like, "This John Shaft novel's good, but we want it to be a white person." And
right.
No, but I mean, yeah, I think this. I don't know what I'm trying to say other than what we've already said. Mm-hmm. It's not a. I don't think it's great. We'll just play right through it. It's fine. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's horrible either. I just think, that's its greatest sin. It's good. It's gonna be a forgettable movie.
That was my impression too. Like not great, not terrible. It was fine. 3 stars probably. I
was thinking maybe that's too much for me if I give it 3.5. But I do feel like I'm hovering at a 3.5 right now.
You're right.
We just watched it, so maybe I need to let the like fun of going to the movies wear off before I give it a rating.
True because I gave watching the 71 one this weekend. I gave it 3 stars only because I found it really boring. For like once the initial plot was set up and you get like the cool vibe of the 1970s New York and Richard Roundtree, it kind of just like had a really hard time holding my attention. Whereas this one, again, I saw it in the theater, so it's a little different. But this one, at least it like mostly held my attention. You know, it was like I had a few chuckles, so that's why I'm like, But I mean, it's not a better movie than the 71 version because again, you got to think of its time and like that movie's had a huge cultural impact. It's funny. The other day, I was like, had a few minutes to kill while I was like eating some food, so I knew we were doing this podcast, so I just went on YouTube and searched Shaft, And one of the first things that like wasn't a trailer or a clip was the Donald Glover bit about Spider-Man. About how,
I love that one.
Yeah, Shaft is not our Spider-Man.
That was always my rebuttal in like comment sections. Was
Yeah.
exactly what Donald Glover says in
Yeah.
that bit.
So, anyways, I just thought of that because I was talking about the cultural impact of the original one, which is like, yeah, obviously it's there, but it's not like a character that I would say like, well, we'll see, but I think Black Panther will have a bigger cultural impact overall than Shaft because Shaft is more for adults, right?
Yeah.
And it was like of a time where things weren't like franchised to hell. So again, like to Donald Glover's point, he's like, I didn't like wake up and watch Shaft cartoons and like, yeah.
Yeah. Also, I should point out, usually on this we rate out of 10. So I'm not saying I give it 3.5 out of 10. We're rating out of 5 at this point.
Okay, yeah, I was going out of 5.
Yeah,
too.
we're thinking about our letterbox
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly. Letterboxd.
Yeah.
Get that plug in there. I think they're associated with thatshelf.com too. We do some promotions with that with Letterboxd. And I always tell people to use Letterboxd.
You told me to use Letterbox, and
Yeah.
I'm so glad you did. I was
Yeah.
like, I don't know why I even was like so excited. I just was like, this is right up my alley. You
Yeah.
really know me. I was like, yep.
Yeah.
And then you told me when they like had the actual app for the
Yeah.
phone, and I was like, even better. I haven't gone on the site in years.
Yeah. Yeah. Even when I'm watching a movie that I've already seen, I like to go on Letterboxd and just see like if my friends have watched it, like what they rate it as.
Yep, I do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
I try to rate it first, and then I'm like, all right, now how did I do versus?
I'm guilty of like looking at my friends' ratings and letting that like influence me somewhat. For example, like if I'm thinking of like between like a 3.5, and I look and I've like everyone's got the same rating, I'm like, well, I don't want to break that streak. I'm like, I'm glad we all agree on something. So it's like that'll help me choose. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've only ever changed my score to no, that's not true. I definitely have lowered scores from the past.
Mm-hmm.
Not based on based on what other people said, but not based on the actual letterbox scores. Just like if I keep hearing negative stuff and I'm like, why did I rate it so high? Well, then I'll be like, maybe I'll bring it down a bit.
So to bring it back to Shaft 2019 again, any comments on Sam Jackson's facial hair? The fact that
I hated it.
He's kept the same look for
Dick
20
didn't
years.
like it.
And I feel like Shaft is a man of fashion, right? I feel like he would change up his facial hair the same way Sam Jackson does in real life.
That was my. I know it sounds petty, but that was my main gripe with the trailer the first time. I was like, why does his hair look so, or his facial hair look so stupid?
That's like a movie trope, is that people never change their hairstyles, right? If you see them as a kid and they've got like a buzz cut and glasses, and they're gonna have that same look when they're older, so you can tell, right?
Unless it's supposed to be like, oh, look at this, how they really
They've changed,
Like,
yeah.
But you're right. It usually has to be like the same all the time.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought that was kind of like, but I guess because Sam Jackson is, he's almost his roles are somewhat defined. There's always like he's got the eye patch for Nick Fury, or he's got like.
And I heard that he does care about the hair situation. Well, I mean, he's done enough where he's bald now, but like he used to like actually be like, no, this is how the hair is going to look. Like that was. I'm sure it wasn't completely his choice, but like he was heavily involved in those decisions.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's heavily involved in all the decisions that have to do with his movies. He's never actually gotten a producer credit, but I think I think that allows him to do more work. But he definitely throws his weight around, from what I've heard on set, to get his way. I don't think he wants to be a producer or a director. I think he's happy with his station as like probably like the actor who's done the most notable films in the last like 2 decades.
Yeah.
And he kind of
like
throws that around and like gets his way, for better or worse.
Do you listen to Happy Sad Confused, or is it?
I do, yeah. Sometimes.
Did you hear his episode recently?
No, I didn't.
He said he was talking about M. Night Shyamalan, which was funny because he basically was talking about the first time. I'm sure Unbreakable was the first time they worked together. Mm-hmm. And he was giving me all these notes on the day, and it really pissed me off.
Yeah.
And then the host was like, well, that's good then, because it was a great performance. He's like, oh, was it? Or did he call me in to do reshoots and be like, how did you actually want to do it on the day?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's fine.
And then he's like, oh, I'd love to see you in a Fincher movie. And he's like, why? And he's like, what? He's like, it would be good. It would be good if you wrote a Fincher movie. He's like, would it? And he's like, do I not know something? He's like, I don't know. I want directors who hire me to do my thing. I don't need them to like. He's like, it's not gonna get better after the 10th take. I don't need that shit.
Yeah, it's funny because I think we talked about this when we did maybe Django. That my brother worked with him on this movie that was shot in Winnipeg called Reasonable Doubt, and he was like, it was a first time director, and basically like did not take direction well. Let's just say that. Like did not take. He would do one or two takes, and like if the director asked for more, he'd say no, basically. And then I heard an interview recently with Adam McKay, and he was talking about working with him on The Other Guys, and he would start because he's got a comedy background, so he's like, throwing some of the lines. They're in a car doing a green screen scene, and he's like, hey, Sam, like say this line. He's like, what? Yeah, just say this line. Nope.
Yeah. It's hard because I do appreciate Samuel Jackson's performances, but the more you hear about him on set, you're kind of like, he doesn't seem like the most pleasant person to work with.
No, he. Let's just say that I don't think my brother will be seeing Shaft 2019.
He made an enemy. Yeah, I feel like I've heard that from other people. Like, the guy in Get Out who plays, again, spoilers, but like the guy who plays the like the body that the grandfather inhabits, and he does that run and whatever.
Oh yeah,
he was also in Django, and he said that like at the premiere he went to go like he was with his dad or something, and he's like I went to go get a picture with him and my dad, and I tapped him on the shoulder, and I don't even remember what he said. Samuel Jackson said, but he was like, in that moment I was like, I might beat the fuck out of Samuel Jackson.
Oh, really?
But he just
where did he tell this story?
This was on I Was There Too. I think that was the podcast he was on. But he was basically saying like he was just like, you need to ask politely, and I think he did ask again, and he was like, no, I'm not taking pictures or something like that.
Well, again, I think Sam Jackson is playing himself in this movie pretty much.
Yeah. It's too bad.
Yeah. Although I don't know what his marital situation is. I've never.
He's married.
That. Yeah. Not that it's any of our business.
Yeah. I think he's had, for as long as we've like cared about him, he's had the same wife.
Well, that's at least one characteristic he doesn't carry over for Shaft.
No. And I think he's got a great relationship with his daughter, unlike Lawrence Fishburne.
Oh yeah.
So there's that.
Ooh.
Yeah. Do you have anything else to say?
I don't. I think I've said it all. Do you wrap it up usually anyway?
Yeah, I wrap it up a certain way.
Okay.
It's a real long run that I've really rusty on.
Okay.
Hold on. Let's see if I can do this.
All right.
Wait, sorry. Do you have anything to plug? Like,
no.
Nope.
Nope.
Okay, great. Then, thank you very much for listening to this. You can listen to other great podcasts on the ThatShelf.com podcast network, like No Budget Nightmares. That's a great theme song.
No Budget Nightmares.
I'm really glad you're here because I always say that and it gets nothing from the co-host or the guest.
Nightmares.
I love the theme song.
Yeah, it's really good.
Black Hole Films, Bad Gay Movies, Highly Logical. I don't want to forget anything else, but there's other podcasts. They're great. You should listen to them. And if you want to listen to more episodes of Spoiled Rotten than what you find on that shelf, go to tdferything.com/spoiledrotten. Please rate, review, and subscribe on, well, I guess they're getting rid of iTunes. So Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, Radio Public, and other places that you get your podcasts. But seriously, you should rate the podcast.
Rate it. Just rate it.
It makes me feel great.
It's easy.
Yeah. And you will find my social media coordinates on the blog post where this is found, and TDF Everything, and also Noah's.
Yep.
Whether he wants it or not.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Conversation for later.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
See ya.
This has been a TDF Everything production, brah.